A blade of grass suddenly sprouted on my hand. Out of curiosity, I reached out and plucked it off, but a sharp pain shot through my hand. From then on, anyone who came into contact with me would catch the same symptoms. I tried many things. Tried burning it, picking at it with needles, but nothing could cure the condition on my hand. To avoid being burdened, my parents heartlessly abandoned me. From that moment, I scavenged for food in trash heaps, fighting stray dogs for scraps. I remember one time, driven by hunger, I stole leftovers from a restaurant. 3 or 5 burly men beat me half to death and threw me outside the wall. I lay there for 3 whole days before crawling back from death's door. But the first thing I did when I woke up was go back to the restaurant's slop bucket for food. I don't know how long I lived like that. That winter, the weather grew colder. My hand stopped sprouting new grass. The skin began to peel away, and normal skin grew back. Before long, I was completely healed. But by then, I was still young. I couldn't find my way home, and had to keep wandering, living off others' leftovers, until I met my first brother. That day, starving, I discovered a treasure trove in the city. The Spring Blossom Pavilion, the most famous brothel around. The guests there ordered delicacies, and barely touched them. A few bites, and the chicken heads and feet left by the pimps and maids were a feast fit for a king to me. Today, I was back, but I searched and searched. The dog hole I always used was gone. Had someone blocked it? Just as I was pacing in a panic, the back door of the Spring Blossom Pavilion creaked open. Terrified, I ducked into the bushes. I heard a woman snarl viciously. "I can't afford to feed you anymore. Get lost. Don't you dare say you know me." Then, something was thrown heavily to the ground. The door slammed shut and was locked. I cautiously peeked out. I saw a young boy, about 8 or 9, sitting dazed on the ground. Another poor soul, abandoned. I sighed to myself, but filling my belly was the priority. I circled behind the bushes and finally found the dog hole. Scrambling on all fours, I quickly slipped into the kitchen, headed straight for the person-sized barrel. Chicken heads, necks, and feet. I'll take all the parts nobody else wants. Wrap them up in a piece of old cloth. Just as I was about to make my escape, a brothel thug suddenly spotted me. Where did this little thief come from? Terrified, I clutched my treasure tight. I just took off running. I just crawled out of the dog hole. When I saw that little master still sitting there, dazed. The thugs had already opened the back door. They were about to come after us. He's so dazed, they'll beat him to death for sure. I steeled myself, charged over, grabbed his hand, and ran for my life. Knowing the area well, I cut through 3 alleys, finally shook them off. We collapsed on the ground, panting and exhausted. The little master stared at me wide-eyed, full of curiosity. "Who are you?" I was starving, too tired to bother with him. Opened my little cloth bundle and picked out a fishtail, carefully sucked it clean. The little master watched, eyes practically popping out. "You hungry too?" Reluctantly, I handed him a chicken neck. "Eat. Don't waste it. I know the pain of hunger better than anyone." After eating, I stood up. The little master gnawed on the neck, asking hoarsely, "Where are you going?" I gave him a strange look. "Home, of course, home." The little master froze instantly, mouth hanging open. Then, out of nowhere, he started crying. Holding the chicken foot, tears fell in big drops. "I don't have a home anymore." I looked at him. I've never even cried like that myself. My heart softened. I hugged the leftover food I'd scavenged. "Don't cry. I'll share my home with you. Then we'll both have a home." "Really?" He stopped crying instantly, red-eyed, and asked me. I puffed out my chest. "Of course. But it's a bit run down." "Don't mind that." Then I took him back to my place. A drafty, broken-down little temple. No beds here, just sleeping on the floor. But to me, this is my whole world. "Now it's your home too," I announced proudly. "I'm Jiang Ji." "And you?" He stared at me blankly. "I'm Du Qianji." That night, I gave him half of my only chicken foot, but Du Qianji pulled 2 golden beans from his robe. "This is all I have." I was still mourning my half a chicken foot, but the next second, my eyes were glued to those 2 shiny golden things. Gold. I mimicked the madam of the brothel, put one in my mouth and bit down hard on the teeth. It's real. 2 golden beans for 1 chicken neck. This deal is a total win. Suddenly, sharing half my home didn't seem like a loss at all. But then a deadly problem arose. How do 2 little kids like us keep this fortune safe? I paced around the old temple like a little adult. Finally, I hid the gold beans at the feet of the Buddha statue. I kowtowed devoutly, praying the Buddha would protect the gold from being stolen, and bless me with a full belly forever. But clearly, the Buddha didn't seem to hear. Just 2 days later, all our food was gone. I was worried, but Du Qianji was trembling with fear. He thought I was going to kick him out, and said shakily, "I can eat even less. Just don't abandon me." I clapped my hands decisively. "Come on, let's go scavenge for vegetable scraps at the market." The wealthy families in town only keep the hearts of the vegetables. The peels they throw away could feed us for days. I whispered to Du Qianji, "We have to be quick and fight for them. Otherwise, we won't even get the rotten scraps." His jaw dropped in shock. "We have to fight for rotten scraps." "That's right. In our world, this is treasure." After a fierce battle, we retreated, covered in dust, holding 2 big armfuls of scraps. I happily planned to eat the most wilted ones tonight. The rest could last 2 more meals. But before I finished speaking, a teenager suddenly darted out from the alley. He snatched most of the scraps from my arms and ran off. Du Qianji was so angry he was about to cry. Our vegetables. But I was used to it inside. You get used to it. From around here, they're the little beggars. We can't beat them. If you can't beat them, you just have to accept it. That's the rule for the poor. We staggered back towards the old temple. On the way, we heard people cheering. Today, the great master was thrown in prison. I froze. I heard he was a good official. Why is everyone so happy a good man is dead? Du Qianji understood even less. He just stared worriedly at the little rotten scraps in his arms. We were almost home. I was looking forward to a meal of boiled greens. But right then, my ears perked up at a faint whimpering sound. I pretended not to hear and tried to hurry away. But Du Qianji grabbed me. Jiangji, there's someone. But Du Qianji grabbed me. Jiangji, there's someone. I frowned irritably. With just you, I'm already starving. If we take in another, we'll really starve to death. But Du Qianji said, what if he has family? Maybe they'll reward us with food. I didn't believe it. We're in the middle of nowhere. Unless you have no family, you wouldn't be dumped here. Thinking that, my heart softened. I put down the vegetables and quietly crept closer, pushing aside the reeds. A young boy in a gray robe lay on the ground. His eyes were closed, and he was covered in blood, just like Uncle Zhou's kitten that was poisoned. My heart ached sharply. Summoning courage, I brought my water skin to his lips. Du Qianji also struggled to lift his head. Suddenly, the boy gasped sharply. He only managed one word. It hurts. I was instantly at a loss. Then, he opened his eyes and looked at us, dazed. Tears instantly streamed down his face. I thought I had hurt him. I quickly told Du Qianji to let go. With a thud, he fell heavily back to the ground. The boy's eyes went wide. For a moment, he even forgot to cry. Brother, are you in a lot of pain? I asked quietly. I suddenly remembered. In our village, an older boy got his foot bitten by a dog. To keep him from feeling the pain, the doctor just knocked him out with one punch. Right. If this brother is in pain too, then I guess I'll have to sacrifice my fist. I raised my fist high, ready to strike. The boy looked at my fist and gulped hard. My leg is broken. I nodded gravely. Then you need my fist even more. Luckily, Du Qianji grabbed me and said urgently, I saw an auntie at the brothel break her leg. They had to take her to the clinic. The boy instantly shot him a grateful look. But the problem was, how do you move someone with a broken leg? We discussed it for a long time. Finally, we steeled ourselves and decided to steal Uncle Zhao's cart. Du Qianji would keep watch, and I would pull the cart. But I was only 7, my shoulders not even reaching the cart's height. I wrapped the rope tightly around my body, and dragged forward with all my might. Using all our strength, we finally managed to lift the boy onto the cart. One pulled from the front, the other pushed from behind. Like 2 little ants, we stubbornly dragged the cart to the only clinic in town. With my hands red and raw from the rope, I pounded on the door. Doctor, my brother's leg is broken. The door opened. A middle-aged man with a beard looked at me kindly. I instantly felt guilty. All my prepared excuses for not paying vanished. I lowered my head and whispered, but we don't have any money. Unexpectedly, the doctor glanced at the boy on the cart. His brow furrowed. Don't move. Let me handle this. Without another word, he carried the boy inside to examine the wound. He applied medicine and used branches to set it. After finishing up, he carried the boy back to the cart. He even grabbed half a month's worth of herbal medicine and handed it over. The leg break is quite serious. Months. He needs to rest. Come back to change the dressing in half a month. Biting my lip, I spoke up again. Doctor, we really don't have any money. He crouched down, patted my head, and smiled. Good children. No charge. Go home now. Take good care of your brother. I pulled the cart. My vision blurred with tears. I think I understood something. Even though the world can be cruel, it seems like there's always someone who cares for you. On the way back, I asked him, brother, where's your home? I'll take you back. My little mind was racing with calculations. This little broken temple can't feed a third mouth. Just my luck. The boy was silent for a long time. Then he finally said, I don't have a home. I burst into tears, not out of sympathy for him, but out of worry for our future meals. But Du Qianji was overjoyed. I don't have a home either. I'm Du Qianji. He's Jiangji. And you? The boy's lips moved slightly. Su-mo. In the end, I still brought Su-mo back to the broken temple. We carefully settled him in. Then I had to return the cart. I'll go with you. Du Qianji clung to me as usual. But this time I refused. You stay and look after Su-mo. Acting like a little adult, I pulled the cart and ran off in a flash. I came back soon after, covered in dust. Uncle Zhao has a bad temper, stealing his stuff. Getting kicked a few times and rolling on the ground is nothing. I wiped my face, and started thinking about dinner. But when a bowl of boiled vegetable leaves in plain water was placed before him, Su-mo was stunned. This is what you eat. He couldn't believe it, but I was eating happily. Yeah, fresh greens. Su-mo took a bite and his face turned green. Vegetable soup without even salt. He saw the bruises on my arm, and his eyes suddenly grew determined. From now on, I'll get you guys some meat. I didn't even look up. I just swallowed a mouthful of greens. Don't you want to eat meat? Su-mo asked curiously. I took a sip of the soup. Staying alive is hard enough right now. Who's thinking about the future? Yeah, Feeding 3 mouths is a huge problem. I was so worried. After thinking it over, I finally made a decision. We'll beg for food. Beg? Du Qianji was shocked, and Su Mo flat out refused. No, he said if his parents knew their only son was begging, they'd probably come back to life out of anger. I put my hands on my hips. If we don't beg, we starve. You want to starve to death? Su Mo fell silent, but Du Qianji quietly poked me, signaling with his eyes. There are still 2 gold beans hidden under the Buddha's feet. I immediately glared at him. The doctor treated him and gave us medicine. You really plan to not pay a single cent? Those 2 gold beans are for the doctor next time we get medicine. Du Qianji instantly deflated, but Su Mo suddenly looked at me, his eyes full of admiration. He didn't expect a beggar like me to understand repaying kindness. Truth is, I don't know any grand principles. I just think you can't take advantage shamelessly, just because someone is kind. Besides, taking Su Mo to see a doctor in the future will cost money for renting a cart. That's all money. It pains me to think about it. Right then, Su Mo suddenly spoke up. I can copy books to earn money. It's only a few coppers per book, but at least it's not begging. My eyes lit up instantly. I squatted right in front of him. Su Mo, you can read. Can you teach me to read and write? He nodded, but then added, as long as we don't beg. Deal. I understand a scholar's integrity, but here's the problem. How do we eat if we don't beg? Even to copy books, we need to put down 2 coppers first, as a deposit for the bookstore owner. Begging is out. Copying books needs capital we don't have. Gritting my teeth, I decided to try my luck in the mountains, live off the land. I didn't dare to hunt, but surely I could gather some mushrooms. So before dawn even broke, I dragged Du Qianji deep into the mountains. Jiangji, where are these mushrooms you mentioned? Du Qianji was trembling with fear. I kept a straight face. The ones outside are all gone. We need to go further in. But the deeper we went, the darker it got. Du Qianji saw a thick, long snake, and nearly wet himself on the spot. Honestly, I was scared too. But to feed 3 mouths, and get those 2 coppers for Su Mo's book copying, I had to go into these mountains. Luckily, not far in, we found a huge patch of mushrooms. Our eyes both lit up. We picked and plucked like crazy. Soon the bamboo basket was full. Du Qianji urged me to leave only when the sun set and the basket was full again. I just dumped the mushrooms into an old piece of clothing, tied it tightly around my waist, and kept on gathering. I picked a small portion to make soup. I laid out the rest to dry on the ground, copying the villagers. I thought I was doing it just right, but I had no idea that mushrooms dried too thoroughly are worth less. 3 days later, I carried the basket to the market. Before leaving, I patted my chest and promised Su Mo, don't worry, I'll definitely get the books for you. Su Mo nodded with a smile, but he had no idea how dangerous this trip to the market would be. Gathering mushrooms isn't hard. Selling them isn't hard either. The real challenge is keeping the money from selling them. As soon as I entered the market, I looked around, making sure those bully beggars weren't there. I dared to find a corner to start selling. Turns out, goods from deep in the mountains are in high demand. The mushrooms sold out quickly, a dozen or so coppers in hand. Du Qianji's eyes were wide with amazement, but I didn't dare let my guard down. I immediately split the coppers and hid them in 2 different places. Then I grabbed him and left. Just as we were about to safely leave the market, I was about to breathe a sigh of relief when we got blocked at the mouth of an alley. I was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when I got cornered at the mouth of an alley. A few half-grown kids had me surrounded. They all had malicious grins on their faces. The leader spoke up. Hand it over. My heart sank, but I could only play dumb. Hand over what? Of course I knew who they were. The town's bully beggars. They specialized in picking on orphans like me. Before, I had no choice but to take it. But this dozen or so copper coins was for Su Mo's medicine. It was food money for the 3 of us. I couldn't give it up, even if it killed me. So you've learned to play dumb, huh? The kid grinned, and raised his hand to slap me. Du Qianji was terrified. She threw herself over me, shielding me with her body. You can't hit people. Just give us the money. No, we won't. The kid glared. If you don't, then you're asking for it. Du Qianji was frantic and furious. All she could do was wail. I sighed inwardly. Looks like there's no getting out of this today. Luckily, I was prepared. Trembling, I only pulled out 1 portion of the money from my robe. Begging with a pained look, I asked if he could leave us a little. The kid bared his teeth in a grin, and snatched it all in one go. He stuffed all the coins into his own robe. My heart ached so much my face went pale. I couldn't utter a single word, but just as he was smugly whistling, and about to turn and leave, he suddenly froze in place. At the mouth of the alley, stood an even younger kid. He was holding a wooden stick. His eyes were like a little demon king's. Give the money back to him. The kid burst out laughing on the spot. He was holding a wooden stick. His eyes looked like a little demon king. Give him back his money. That punk laughed out loud on the spot. I, Pan Dashan, have truly seen it all today. What kind of brat dares to threaten me? I'm not giving it back. If you've got what it takes, come hit me. Before he could finish his words, the kid charged at him fiercely. He raised the wooden stick high. It came straight down towards his forehead. Pan Dashan was so scared he dodged in a hurry, but the stick seemed to have eyes. It still landed hard on his head. Just 1 hit. Pan Dashan, who was so arrogant moments ago, rolled his eyes back, and collapsed on the ground. His remaining lackeys were scared out of their wits, and ran off in an instant. Then, the kid walked over with a grim face. He took the 8 coins from Pan Dashin's pocket, and shoved them right back into my hand. Then he turned to leave. I couldn't just let him go. I hurriedly grabbed his sleeve, and looked at him with pleading eyes. Big brother, I want to thank you. The kid's icy face instantly turned red. No need. I quickly pressed on. Then, big brother, are you going home now? He was silent for a moment, and shook his head. I'm not going home. Home is gone. My heart leaped with joy. I eagerly extended an invitation. We're not going home either. We don't have parents. Big brother, would you like to join us? A boss who can take down Pan Dashin with one swing. With him around, who would dare rob me again? What's one more mouth to feed? This deal is a total win. I was just calculating. He uttered one word. Okay, I'm not going home. Home is gone. I was over the moon. I eagerly invited him. We're not going home either. None of us have parents. Big brother, will you join us? He's the guy who can take down Pan Dashin with one swing. With him around, who'd dare rob me? What's one more mouth to feed? This is a total win. I was just thinking. He said one word, okay. And just like that, I picked up my third brother. His name is Zhangheng. Both his parents are dead. He just escaped from a cruel family. He hadn't eaten in days. For once, I was feeling generous. I spent 1 coin on 2 meat buns. Zhangheng got a whole one. Du Qianji and I shared the other. Du Qianji started crying on the spot. Jiangji, you're playing favorites. I patted him earnestly. He's my bodyguard. Gotta keep him happy. We wolfed down the buns and headed straight for the bookshop. I ran up to the shopkeeper, and chirped brightly. Boss, we'd like 2 books to copy. But the shopkeeper just glanced at me, his face full of disdain. Where did this little beggar come from? Get lost. With that, he waved his hand, and shoved me to the ground. The next second, Zhang Heng's eyes turned icy. He instantly shielded me. Du Qianji was furious and argued with the shopkeeper. We're here to work, not to beg. The shopkeeper calmed down a bit, but his expression was still sarcastic. Copying books requires a deposit. Do you have any money? Yes. Du Qianji immediately pulled out 8 copper coins from his pocket. You need to put down a deposit to copy books. Do you have it? Yes. Du Qianji immediately pulled out 8 copper coins from his pocket. The shopkeeper glanced at them. He's asking for an arm and a leg. 8 coins. You should know other shops only ask for 2 coins as deposit. He's deliberately giving us a hard time. Du Qianji froze on the spot. Murderous intent flashed in Zhang Heng's eyes. I quickly scrambled up from the ground, grabbed both of my brothers by the arm, and snorted coldly at the shopkeeper. What a rip-off. We're not copying anything. After saying that, I pulled them away and we ran. Just like that, Sumo's money-making plan was about to go down the drain, but Du Qianji suddenly pointed to the end of the alley. Look, there's another one over there. It was a newly opened small bookstore. It looked pretty deserted. I wasn't feeling confident, so I tentatively asked, Shopkeeper, do you need any books copied? But there was no response from inside for a long time. Just as we were about to leave, a young scholar suddenly rushed out. Yes, 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 we'll take as many as you've got. Du Qianji instantly got smarter, and tightly hid the 8 coins in his pocket. He cautiously asked, how much is the deposit? The scholar smiled and said, 2 coins deposit, 4 coins per book. Not only that, he actually went on to say, if you become a regular customer later on, the deposit will be waived. Now that's a proper businessman. On the way back to the rundown temple, I held the 2 books, as if they were gold ingots. I counted on my fingers. We earned 16 coins today, spent 10, and have 6 left. This is our family's first income. I made 16 coins today, spent 10 of them, so I have 6 left. This is our family's first income. But what makes me happiest is finding a brother in Zhangheng. As long as he's around, I feel extra secure. Back at the rundown temple, I immediately pulled out the warm buns. Su-mo, this is for you. Su-mo finished it politely. Then he picked up his brush and started copying the book. But he doesn't even have a table, so he has to write on the bedding. But his handwriting is truly beautiful. Right then, Zhangheng walked out without a word. I never expected him to find a small plank. He propped it up with a few rocks, and managed to make a table for Su-mo. Su-mo looked at Zhangheng, even though neither said a word. I could tell they understood each other, and I am their new hope. Soon, a steaming pot of mushroom soup was ready. Still no salt, but Su-mo drank it, with relish. But Zhang Heng's face instantly contorted. But after looking at us, he started doubting his own taste buds. Looking at him, I couldn't help but worry. Zhang Heng, don't look down on us for being poor. We're almost out of mushrooms too. Looks like we need to go back into the mountains. As soon as I said that, Du Qianji plopped down, on the ground, that mountain full of snakes again. I turned my head, and fired off 3 rapid questions. Qianji, don't you want to make money anymore? Don't you like the feeling of having money? We can make money just by picking mushrooms. You don't want that? Gu Qianji scratched his head, looking dazed. That seems about right. But just then, Su-mo put down his brush. If you don't want to go into the mountains, then don't. I can copy a whole book in a day. That's enough to feed us. No way. I was the first to jump up in protest. How can we put the entire burden of supporting the family on Sumo alone? I won't be a freeloader, and neither will Qianji, right? Lu Qianji nodded, looking silly. I immediately started painting a rosy picture for him. Let's go pick mushrooms. We'll earn more coins in a day than Sumo does. Zheng Ruqian's eyes instantly lit up. He grabbed a bamboo basket and was about to charge out. Let's go into the mountains and pick mushrooms. If Zhang Heng hadn't stopped him, he would have charged out the door right then. I stuck out my tongue. Oh no. I think I've talked Qianji into a daze. Early the next morning, after we finished our soup, I took Du Qianji, who was all pumped up, slung a bamboo basket over my shoulder, and headed into the mountains. Zhang Heng just silently picked up a stick, and followed behind us without a word. Me, an orphan girl who'd been wandering for 5 or 6 years, suddenly had 3 older brothers overnight. I immediately took my newly acknowledged second brother, and third brother up the mountain to pick mushrooms. Then I turned around and bragged like crazy to the villagers. This is my second brother, and I have an older brother who's sick too. But who would have thought, the moment the villagers left, Du Qianji immediately got upset with me. He questioned me with a defiant look. I was here first. Why is he the second brother and not the first? I was here first. Why am I the second brother? I'm the eldest, not the second. I didn't say a word. I just glanced at Sumo, who was copying books in the dilapidated temple. With second brother's restless nature, how could he have the calm and refined air of the eldest? Then second brother followed my gaze. He instantly deflated. He could only force himself to find some comfort. At least I'm not the youngest. Zhang Heng remained as expressionless as ever. Soon after, eldest brother finished copying the books. We need to head to the market right away to sell them. Who knew that this time, the mushrooms we'd only dried for 2 days would fill a whole bamboo basket? After selling the mushrooms, I counted the copper coins in my hand. There were actually 20 of them. That's a full 4 coins more than last time. Second brother and I exchanged a look. We instantly realized the key point. If we dry them for 1 day less, the mushrooms are heavier, and sell for more. But that's not all. We also exchanged the 2 books eldest brother had copied. Today's total income was a whopping 28 coins. In all my life, I'd never seen so much money. My hands were shaking with excitement. But right then, third brother suddenly spoke up. Mushrooms are more expensive than rice or flour. It's too wasteful for us to eat them. He's right. We have to listen to him this time. So we headed straight for the food market. With just 5 coins, we bought 10 pounds of the coarsest rice flour. But when we passed by the butcher's stall, we couldn't take another step. It had been so long since I'd had any meat. But we earned 28 coins today. We have to save 20 of them. That leaves us with only 3 coins. With that little, we probably couldn't even afford a pig's tail. I squatted in front of the butcher's stall. My eyes were locked on a nearly meatless pork bone in the corner. A pork bone with almost no meat on it. Boss, give us 1 pork bone. I was squatting in front of the butcher shop, my eyes fixed on a corner, at a pork bone with almost no meat on it. Boss, I'll take that pork bone. The butcher looked at me like I was an idiot, but I didn't care. I got a huge 5-pound bone for just 2 won. Carrying the bone, my heart was bursting with joy. It felt like I'd found a treasure. But the next second, third brother silently took it and cradled it in his arms. I looked at the 10 pounds of rice and flour on second brother's back, then at the pork bone in third brother's arms. Suddenly, my nose tingled. So this is what it feels like to have brothers. This is family. Just as I was getting lost in this touching moment, second brother suddenly turned his head. Drooling, he asked me, Jiangji, how are you gonna cook this pork bone? Even third brother managed to squeeze out a few rare words. Plain boiled water won't be good. I instantly got all puffed up with anger. All the earlier sentiment was gone. Seriously? I'm working my butt off to make money for us, and you dare to criticize my cooking? I was furious, but I swallowed my anger and ran to the seasoning shop. But when I asked the price, I nearly died on the spot. 1 won only bought a tiny packet of salt. That's half a pork bone's worth of money. I was absolutely heartbroken. Back at the rundown temple, I saw Big Brother Sumo was awake. I immediately rushed over like he was a treasure. Big Brother, we bought a pork bone. We're having bone broth noodles today. You're in for a treat. I called him Big Brother with such affection and sweetness. I saw him freeze completely. Then, the corners of his mouth slowly curled into a gentle smile. But when he saw the bowl of gloopy stuff I brought out, that anticipation instantly turned to shock. I was so embarrassed I wanted to crawl into a hole. I was trying to make noodles, but somehow ended up with a pot of dough lumps. But when he saw the bowl I brought out, that gooey mess, his anticipation instantly turned to stunned silence. I was so embarrassed I wanted to crawl into a hole. I was trying to make noodles, but somehow ended up with a pot of dough lumps. The bone broth reeked, not milky white at all. It was a total culinary disaster. But to my surprise, Big Brother didn't say a word. He just took it and started eating, bite by bite. Even second brother and third brother, the pickiest eaters, finished it all without a single complaint. All because there was salt in that bowl of dough lumps. At that moment, my heart felt both sour and warm. After the meal, I carefully took out the 20 copper coins I earned today, and hid them with the previous money and the gold beans, calculating that Big Brother's medicine needs changing in 5 more days. So for the next 3 days, I led my brothers deep into the mountains. We went crazy picking mushrooms. 3 whole large bamboo baskets full. We spent 2 more days selling them all. Plus the money Big Brother earned from copying books. We actually made another 80 copper coins. I looked at the small mountain of copper coins piled at the Buddha's feet. Over 100 coins in total. Tears of excitement welled up in my eyes. I'd never seen so much money. Right then, I thumped my chest and boasted to my brothers, from now on, just follow me. I'll get you meat to eat. I'll make you big landlords. I even started fantasizing that we'd use golden hoes to till the land. Big Brother was thoroughly amused by me. Laughing, he gave us each a title. Landlord Jiang, Landlord Zhang, Landlord Du. Even third brother, usually the coolest, couldn't help but crack a smile. The whole rundown temple was filled with a joyful atmosphere. I was even smiling in my dreams. The days passed uneventfully. Before we knew it, it was late autumn that year. Early one morning, I suddenly opened my eyes. I had been frozen awake. Early that morning, I jolted awake. I was literally frozen out of my sleep. Peeking through the door crack, I saw a vast expanse of white frost outside. My mind went blank. I felt like I was falling into an icy abyss. I've always dreaded winter the most. The cold demands more clothes for warmth. Without straw sandals and ragged clothes, your limbs go stiff. Stealing leftovers becomes harder, and you're more likely to get caught and beaten half to death. But right now, that's not the main issue. The main issue is the mushrooms in the mountains. The deep mountains are cold. The deeper you go, the colder it gets. After the frost, mushrooms at the foot of the mountain might survive, but the ones deep in the mountains will all freeze to death. But the mushrooms at the foot are never ours to pick. This means, just as we've barely saved up 100 copper coins, we'll lose our means of survival. I plopped down on the ground, filled with helplessness and despair. Third brother came back from outside, still wearing thin clothes. What's wrong? Are you cold? He said, starting to take off his outer garment. I quickly stopped him and shook my head. Third brother, you're dressed even thinner than me. Take that off, and you'll have nothing. It was my lack of foresight. I was only focused on filling our bellies recently, and forgot about keeping warm. Since our only quilt was given to our injured eldest brother, Du Qianji, lying on the straw mat, was shivering, curled up like a hedgehog. Second brother, I rushed over and shook Du Qianji awake. When you feel the cold while sleeping, you're most likely to freeze to death. I've seen many beggars like us lie down in the heavy snow and never get up again. Luckily, today was just the first frost. After waking up, Du Qianji stopped shivering, though his lips were slightly pale. I quickly cooked some dough drop soup and brought it over so second brother could have a hot bowl. I quickly made some dough drop soup. I brought it over for second brother to have a hot bowl. Then I took out all the money from under the Buddha's feet. I made a firm decision. Today, I'm going to change eldest brother's bandages. I'll give the gold beans to the doctor. With the remaining money, we'll buy quilts. But before that, we need to rent a flatbed cart. I jogged all the way to town, rented a flatbed cart, and pulled it back to the broken temple. Second brother and third brother carefully lifted and placed eldest brother on the cart. It's good to have 2 able-bodied older brothers. Zhang Heng took on the task of pulling the cart. Du Qianji was in charge of pushing. The 2 occasionally switched places. Though they were panting, it was still manageable. I jogged along behind them. When we were still a short distance from the clinic, we saw a team of officers walking out from afar. They wore iron-plated vests and carried sheathed long knives. Their expressions were cold and ruthless. Behind them was the doctor, shackled, and the doctor's wife. The 2 seemed to have been tortured. Their clothes were disheveled, their faces haggard, and there was blood at the corners of their mouths. Zhang Heng's pulling suddenly halted. The speed dropped sharply. Du Qianji couldn't brake in time, and almost flew forward. I said, "Why did you stop all of a sudden?" He had just started mumbling a sentence when Su Mo cut him off. "Look down, don't stare at them." Zhang Heng quickly lowered his head. Du Qianji was half a beat slower. He made eye contact with a knife-carrying constable. Fortunately, his gaze was vacant, like the simpleton son of a landlord. The constables just glanced at him and turned away. The leader shouted, "Your mouth is so tight. What benefits did the county magistrate give you? Come with me to the county jail dungeon. Let's see if your mouths are harder, or the county jail's torture tools are harder. What did the magistrate promise you? You're coming with me to the county jail. Let's see if your mouths are tougher, or the county's interrogation tools are." He finished by kicking the doctor. With Zhang Heng deliberately slowing us down, we walked at a snail's pace until the distance grew, and the constable with the sword disappeared from view. Only then did we dare stop in front of the clinic. Tears welled up in my eyes. I couldn't understand what the doctor had done wrong to be treated like that. Su Mo clenched his jaw. He didn't say a word. Du Qianji looked left and right, scratching the back of his head. What about Big Brother's leg? Yeah, the doctor's gone. Who's gonna treat him now? I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears streamed down my face. We'll have to go to the county seat. Zhang Heng frowned. But at the speed we pull the cart, it takes 2 hours just from the ruined temple to the town. And from the town to the county seat, it's a full 8 hours. A round trip of 16 hours is unbearable even with an empty cart, let alone with someone on it. I gritted my teeth. Let's wait here for a bit. Maybe the doctor will come back. back. No one objected, so I pushed open the clinic door and laid Big Brother on the examination bed. We waited quietly, but after waiting for most of the day, no one ever came. I was starving. I took third brother out and bought 4 steamed buns. Back at the clinic, we each got one. The warm, soft buns. Taking a bite felt like pure bliss. I was wolfing mine down. Suddenly, we heard the sound of wood creaking. Then, a narrow gap opened in the chest behind Big Brother's bed. I was startled. I almost dropped my bun. Who's there? Suddenly, there was a creaking sound of wood. Then, the crate behind Big Brother's bed lifted open a narrow crack. I was startled. I almost dropped my steamed bun. Who's there? The person inside didn't speak. They just stared, their eyes full of longing for my bun. They must have been hungry too. I stopped talking too. I just squatted in front of the crate and took a big bite of the bun. The aroma of meat and scallions wafted to my nose. The person in the crate held out for a while, but then actually closed the crack. Out of sight, out of mind. I was speechless. I tucked the bun into my clothes and forcefully opened the crate. Inside was a thin, frail-looking little boy, curled up in the corner of the wooden box. He seemed startled. He covered his face with his hands, his body trembling slightly. I'd never seen such a timid boy. Who are you? Why are you here? The little boy didn't speak. I thought for a moment, then offered the half-eaten bun. Lured by the smell, he swallowed hard a few times. Finally, he couldn't resist and took it, eating in small bites. Even though he was a boy, his manners were even more delicate than most girls. My curiosity was about to burst. Tell me who you are, and I'll treat you to another bun. The boy finished the last bite of the bun, licked his lips, and then said in a hoarse voice, "My name is Chu. A group of bad people took my father and mother away. They told me to hide. They said if they didn't come back in a day, I should run as far away as I could, all by myself." He fought back his sadness, his voice growing softer. It suddenly dawned on me. So he's the doctor's child. His parents must have sensed danger and told him to hide. Almost instantly, a surge of heroic determination rose within me. So this is the doctor's child. His parents must have sensed the danger and hid the child away. Almost instantly, a surge of heroic determination rose within me. The doctor was good to us. I should repay his kindness. Now that he's in trouble, I'll repay it to his child. Without a moment's hesitation, I sent second brother to buy fresh buns for Chu and promised we'd wait with him. Chu's face was full of gratitude. He was on the verge of tears. And so, we waited at the clinic from dawn till dusk, and from dusk till dawn again. I tried several times to stay awake, but I couldn't hold on. I just collapsed, until I was startled awake by crying. I opened my eyes, to see Chu kneeling before 2 bodies. My heart lurched, and I rushed over. As expected, it was the doctor and his wife. They seemed to have been tortured, covered in wounds. "Jiang Ji, don't look." Eldest brother gently tried to stop me. No sooner had he spoken than third brother covered my eyes. But the brutal scene was already seared into my mind. So besides freezing, starving, or being beaten to death, there was also a death this cruel. My heart was utterly shaken. "Father. Mother." Chu remained prostrate on the ground, weeping. My heart ached for him. I went over, took his hand, and whispered, "Brother, if you don't mind, you can stay with us. Though we're a bit poor, a bit shabby, with no money and can't afford meat." I made up my mind. If Chu didn't want to stay, if he wanted to seek out relatives, I'd give him the 2 gold nuggets, and tell him to hide them well. Don't let anyone see. Save them for when he takes a wife. But to my surprise, Chu only hesitated a moment before nodding. My expression froze. Logically, I didn't want another mouth to feed. But the doctor was so kind. I couldn't bring myself to be cruel to his child. Chu was as frail as a little girl. He'd probably die alone in this cold winter. "All right, fourth brother. From now on, we're family." I sighed. The doctor and his wife's bodies couldn't stay in the clinic for long. Following Big Brother's suggestion, we kids worked together to dig a pit. I took out 20 coins, just enough for a simple coffin. We couldn't afford a tombstone. We could only stick a wooden plank on the grave. Big Brother simply wrote the doctor couple's names on it. "Father, Mother. I'm unfilial. I have to leave you here. Someday, I will avenge you and move your graves." Chu kowtowed 3 times, his head thudding on the ground. Avenge them? Who doesn't want that? Back at the clinic, Chu sat there dazed, grief-stricken and lost. I was sad too. No one could treat Big Brother's leg. "We still have to go to the county town." Third brother bit his lip. Chu, beside him, snapped out of it. "You need to treat a broken leg, right? I studied with my father for a few years. I know a little, just not as skilled as he was. It might hurt a bit." As he spoke, his eyes welled up again. I quickly tried to distract him. "Good. We can't stay at this clinic. Fourth brother, pack your things and come home with us." Chu gave a bitter smile. With tears in his eyes, he wrapped all the medicines in oil paper. "These are the clinic's foundation. And what Mo needs most? Just these. You're not taking anything else." Chu gave a bitter smile. With tears in his eyes, he wrapped up all the medicine in oiled paper. "These are the foundation of the clinic. And what Mo needs most? Just these. Aren't you taking anything else? What else is there to take?" Chu was confused. I didn't say a word, but my actions told him we needed to. Then I practically emptied the entire clinic. If the medicine cabinet cabinets weren't so heavy, and the temple didn't have room for beds, I would have taken everything. The 5 of us huffed and puffed our way back to the temple. Only then did Wenshirchu understand why we packed everything. This temple can only keep out the wind and rain. It has nothing else. Luckily, the clinic was well stocked. A few quilts. The thinner ones were laid over the straw. The thicker ones were for covering up. The cotton shoes were a bit big, but wearable. We could just stuff them with extra layers of cloth. Most importantly, we now had many intact pots, bowls, and utensils. I placed the small, broken pot I used before in a corner, and took out the large, intact iron pot. I grabbed 2 handfuls of rice, added 3 ladles of water, and started a fire to cook. Second brother and third brother went to return the cart, and get back the deposit. By the time they returned, the rice was perfectly cooked, bubbling merrily in the large iron pot. I took out clean porcelain bowls and ladled out 5 full bowls of porridge. The unique aroma of the rice, along with the broth, created a rich texture that danced on the tongue. I took a sip and closed my eyes in bliss. But soon, I sighed with a pang of heartache. Before, half a handful of rice was enough for me alone. Now with 5 people, 2 handfuls need an extra pinch. Otherwise, it's simply not enough. But when I opened my eyes, and looked at my 4 brothers, each with their own distinct demeanor, eldest brother wielding his brush with flair, second brother looking a bit simple-minded, third brother steady as a pine, fourth brother gentle and delicate, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming joy inside. In 7 years of hard knocks, I've met people I could call friends. I even wanted to think of them as brothers and sisters. But before long, they all left me for one reason or another. How long these 4 brothers will stay, I don't know. But I'm greedy for every day I have a family. More people means more liveliness, but it also means a heavier burden of life. After Frost's descent, the chill in the broken-down temple grew worse each day. Watching my 4 brothers huddled under thin bedding, my heart felt like it was weighed down by a block of ice. The bedding 4th brother brought from the clinic could barely keep out the cold, but feeding 5 mouths became the toughest problem. We had no more mushrooms. The money my eldest brother earned copying books only bought some coarse rice. We were back to not having enough to eat. One day, I went to the market with my last 5 coppers. I saw an old farmer looking glum, guarding a basket of wilted greens. The roads were icy, and he'd come to town late. He was afraid the rest would rot in his hands. An idea suddenly popped into my head. I went up and asked brightly, "Uncle, would you sell me this basket for 3 coppers? The old man looked me over for a long time. Seeing Du Qianji behind me with an empty bamboo basket, he sighed and agreed. I divided the greens into 2 batches. We kept the wilted leaves for ourselves. The fresher ones I tied into small bundles, and squatted by the back door of a tavern to sell them. The maids and servant women passing by saw the greens were fresh and cheap. In less than an hour, they were all sold. I made a clean profit of 8 coppers, clutching the coins on my way back. I practically floated on air. This business could make money. From then on, I went to the vegetable fields outside the city before dawn every day. I bargained with the farmers for their leftover, lower-grade vegetables at rock-bottom prices. Then I'd sort and tidy them up, picking out the sellable ones to take into the city. After that, I went to the vegetable farms on the outskirts of town before dawn every day to negotiate wholesale prices with the farmers. They gave me rock-bottom prices for the second-rate vegetables they had left over. I would then sort and tidy them up, picked out the sellable ones to take into the city for sale. My second brother was in charge of keeping the accounts for me. My third brother, being strong, carried the vegetables for me, and although my eldest brother couldn't move, he would still write small wooden signs for fresh seasonal vegetables to help attract business. My 4th brother stayed at the rundown temple, cooking rice porridge and waiting for us to return. But we didn't have peace for long. Trouble soon came knocking. The vegetable vendors in the city saw I was taking their business, and blocked me from setting up my stall. Their leader was a burly man with a mean face. He kicked over my bamboo basket. Greens scattered all over the ground. He also pushed my second brother aside. I was so upset my eyes welled up. I was just about to argue, when my third brother suddenly appeared from nowhere. He was gripping a carrying pole. His eyes were as cold as ice. "Try touching her again." The big man saw it was just a kid, and sneered, ready to make a move. But Zhang Heng forced him back step by step with the pole. Vendors from the surrounding stalls gathered to watch. Some recognized that I often helped out the old farmers, and was just a child. They all started speaking up for me. The big man hadn't gained any advantage, so he left, cursing and grumbling. I crouched on the ground picking up the greens. Tears fell on the vegetable leaves. My second brother quietly came over and helped me pick them up. My third brother also crouched down and brushed the mud off the leaves for me. "Don't be afraid. I'll protect you from now on." After this incident, I actually became more resilient. I moved my stall to a busier street corner, and even learned some tricks of the trade for hawking. Business actually became better than before. After saving up some money, I rented a small pushcart. I no longer sold just greens. I also started buying local eggs from farmers, and pickled vegetables. With more variety, my regular customers also grew. Under Wenshirchu's care, Sumo's leg gradually improved enough for him to walk. With Wenshirchu's care, Sumo's leg gradually healed enough for him to walk again. When he wasn't copying books, he'd help me with the accounts. he taught a few of us how to read and write. Du Qianji was a smooth talker. He got along well with the customers, and often brought in big business. Zhang Heng remained as quiet as ever, but he was always the first to step up when the work was toughest or most dangerous. As for Wen Shichu, he'd treat minor ailments for the neighbors, earning some food to help support the household. Our days were like a spiderweb in the corner of the old temple, slowly woven with warmth through wind and rain. 8 years passed in a flash. With our savings, we built a small house next to the old temple, finally leaving that little shack behind. We set up vegetable plots in the yard, and raised a few chickens and ducks. With his martial skills, Zhang Heng would occasionally escort goods for town merchants, earning a bit of silver for the family. Du Qianji learned a lot of characters from Su Mo. He could even copy simple books for extra money. When Shichu studied his family's medical texts, his skills as a doctor became well known in nearby towns. I was still the pillar of the household, in charge of the finances. One day, returning from the city, I found my eldest brother hunched over his desk, looking unusually grim. He stroked the worn, dog-eared book in his arms and said to me, "Shir, the imperial exams are in 3 months. I want to give it a try." I knew he'd studied since childhood. All these years copying books, he'd never forgotten a single character he read. He must have had some confidence. Seeing his seriousness, I put down my work. "The imperial exams? Are you sure, brother?" Su Mo nodded. There was a light in his eyes, but also a hint of melancholy. "But the capital is so far away. Travel expenses are a big problem. And with this leg of mine, it's just that the journey to the capital is long. Travel expenses are a big problem. And with my leg, I'll get the money," second brother said as he walked in. Third brother followed behind, carrying a sack. "Big brother, you just focus on your studies. What's there to fear about a bad leg? We'll carry you to the capital if we have to. Come here." At that moment, third brother also put down his sack and gathered around. "I'll take on a few more escort jobs, and try my luck in the mountains. See if I can dig up any valuable herbs." Seeing second and third brother offering their plans, Su Mo felt a surge of warmth in his heart. "That's right, big brother. Don't forget, you're not alone. You have us." It's just a shame fourth brother, Wen Shichu, is away on a distant house call. We haven't had a chance to tell him yet. I think if he knew. In the days that followed, the lamp in the dilapidated temple burned late into the night. Su Mo studied at the plank table Zhang Heng had set up, his shadow cast on the wall, thin yet upright. Jiang Ji and Du Qianji went into the mountains before dawn, not just to gather mushrooms, but also to learn to identify medicinal herbs. Their hands were scratched countless times by thorns. Zhang Heng took on a long-distance escort job to a neighboring county. He was gone for half a month. He returned with injuries, but brought back a heavy ingot of silver. And fourth brother, Wen Shichu, 100 miles away, also sent money earned from his house calls, along with his sincere blessings for big brother. Finally, they had scraped together enough travel money for the capital. On the day of departure, before dawn had broken, I took out all the copper coins and gold beans from under the Buddha's feet, and stuffed them into Su Mo's bag. Zhang Heng carried Su Mo's luggage. Du Qianji supported Su Mo. I walked at the very front. Zhang Heng carried Su Mo's luggage. Du Qianji supported Su Mo. I walked at the very front, like a protective little animal, leading my brothers on the road to the capital. The journey was bumpy. Su Mo's legs suffered. He was in so much pain. Sweat poured down his face, but he gritted his teeth and didn't make a sound. We passed by a relay station. The few of us were strapped for cash. We could only squeeze into the woodshed for the night. That night, I was so cold I curled into a ball. Zhang Heng silently took off his coarse outer coat and covered me with it. Du Qianji handed Su Mo the last half of a cornbread bun. Swallowing his own saliva, he said he wasn't hungry. Su Mo looked at his 3 younger siblings. He felt a lump in his throat. He only made a silent vow in his heart. He must make a name for himself, and protect them for the rest of their lives. When we reached the capital, we found the cheapest inn to stay at. Su Mo plunged headfirst into the bitter sea of exam preparation. Meanwhile, I took my brothers to the capital's streets to find work. I noticed there were many wealthy and powerful people in the capital. The wild mushrooms I gathered could actually fetch a high price, so I picked up my old trade again. Every day before dawn, I'd go to the mountains outside the city to gather mushrooms. Then I'd carry them on a pole to restaurants and hawk them. But the capital wasn't like our small town. Rules were everywhere, and bullies were everywhere too. One day, I had just finished selling my mushrooms, and was heading back to the inn, when a few local thugs blocked my path. Their leader had a face full of scowling flesh. He reached out to grab her money pouch, daring to sell goods here. "You haven't paid your respects to me yet." I desperately protected the money pouch. Stiffening my neck, I yelled, "This is my eldest brother's money for the imperial exams. You can't touch it." The thugs burst into laughter. They reached out to shove her. Just then, a figure suddenly rushed over and punched the leader right in the face. Right at that moment, a figure suddenly charged forward. He threw a punch right into the lead thug's face. It was Zhang Heng. He was on his way to the security agency for work when he happened to witness this scene. Zhang Heng moved with swift precision. In just a few moves, he drove the thugs away, but he took a slash to his own arm. Blood flowed freely. I was so scared my face went pale. Tearfully, I tore at the hem of my clothes, wanting to bandage his wound, but Zhang Heng just grinned. He shoved the money pouch back into her hand. It's fine, really. Protecting you and the money is what matters most." After this incident, Du Qianji became troubled. He looked at Zhang Heng's wound, then looked at Su Mo, growing increasingly gaunt in the inn. Suddenly, he remembered the jade pendant he kept close to his chest. It was the only thing on him when he was abandoned. The jade was of pure quality. The character, Du, was carved on it. He secretly took the pendant to a pawn shop. When the pawn shop owner saw the pendant, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly asked about its origin. Du Qianji simply said, he was an orphan who ended up on the streets. This was a family heirloom. The owner was silent for a long moment. Then he gave him 10 taels of silver. When he returned to the inn with the silver, Du Qianji's eyes were red. I asked where the silver came from. He only said he got lucky, found something valuable. Though I had my doubts, I didn't press further. I just carefully put the silver away. I found a doctor to treat third brother's arm, and bought better writing supplies and tonics for eldest brother. On the day of the provincial exams, Su Mo entered the examination hall. I waited outside with Zhang Heng and Du Qianji. We waited from dawn till dusk, not even daring to drink water. After the 3-day exam period, when Su Mo emerged, his lips were chapped, and he had lost weight, but he managed to smile for them. The 3-day exam period was over. When Su Mo emerged, his lips were chapped and dry, and he had lost weight too, but he managed to smile for them. I answered all the questions. On the day the results were posted, on the capital's honor roll, the name Su Mo was listed at the very top. He was the top scholar of the imperial exams. The news reached the inn. I clung to Su Mo's arm, crying my eyes out. Zhang Heng finally cracked a smile. Du Qianji jumped for joy, nearly knocking over the table. Su Mo became famous overnight, but he didn't forget his brothers. He used his reward money to rent a decent house, so his siblings didn't have to crowd into the inn anymore. But not long after, trouble came knocking. That day, a group of officers suddenly surrounded the house. They claimed Su Mo was a remnant of a rebel faction, and they were there to arrest him. I stepped in front of Su Mo, hands on my hips, confronting the officers. "My brother is the top scholar. What gives you the right to arrest him?" The lead officer sneered. "His real name isn't Su Mo. He's the youngest son of the former deputy censor-in-chief. Years ago, the deputy censor-in-chief was executed along with his entire family for denouncing a corrupt official. He was the one who slipped through the net. So Su Mo's past was far heavier than he'd let on. Back then, his father was wrongfully accused. A servant risked his life to smuggle the young boy out, but they were ambushed on the road. He broke his leg and forgot much of his past. He only remembered his vow for revenge and to clear his father's name. The officers moved to seize him. Zhang Heng suddenly drew a wooden club he'd hidden behind his back and stood protectively in front of everyone. Just as tensions were about to boil over, a luxurious carriage came speeding down the street. The curtain was pulled aside, and a middle-aged man in fine robes stepped down. He sternly ordered the officers to stop. "Who dares lay a hand on my student?" A middle-aged man in brocade robes descended. He sternly called out to stop the bailiffs. "Who dares lay a hand on my student?" The newcomer was the grand tutor of the court. He was also the chief examiner for this year's imperial examinations. He had long recognized Su Mo's talent and integrity, and had secretly investigated his background. The grand tutor addressed the bailiffs. "The wrongful case against Censor Su has been secretly investigated by His Majesty. He will soon be exonerated. How dare you act so recklessly?" The bailiffs slunk away in disgrace. Su Mo bowed deeply to the Grand Tutor. The Grand Tutor helped him up, seeing that, "You are promising material. Do not waste your talent, and do not fail the younger siblings who depend on you." After this incident, Su Mo's family name was cleared. It also strengthened his resolve to take the palace examination, and become the top scholar to uphold justice. We returned to our home in the small town. Eldest brother buried himself in his studies, preparing at all times for next year's exam. During this time, fourth brother Wen Shichu also returned from afar. With him here, eldest brother's health was taken care of, and we didn't have to worry too much. second and third brothers kept finding work to earn money. Watching my brothers, for the sake of our future, grow increasingly haggard, filled my heart with a mix of emotions. Soon, it was time again for eldest brother to travel to the capital for the exams. The day we saw him off at the ferry, the sky was still dark. Du Qianji carried 2 large bundles of pickles he had dried himself. Zhang Heng stuffed into his bag a short knife for self-defense. Wen Shichu prepared a full chest of common medicinal herbs. Su Mo looked at us, his eyes welling up. If I succeed, I will make sure you all live a good life. After Su Mo left, Du Qianji suddenly fell ill with a strange disease. His fever wouldn't break. He kept muttering about his parents' jade pendant. When Shichu searched through all his medical books, he kept muttering about his parents' jade pendant. When Shichu scoured every medical text, he said it was a sudden illness caused by pent-up emotions and unresolved issues. One day, as I was watching over Du Qianji while he took his medicine, a group of finely dressed guards suddenly arrived outside the courtyard gate. The head steward saw Du Qianji and immediately knelt down, weeping. "Young master, this old servant has finally found you." He took out that jade pendant. It was the very one Du Qianji had pawned. So it turned out Du Qianji was the youngest son of the wealthy Du family from the capital. He had been kidnapped by villains years ago. The Du family had searched for him for 8 long years. Master Du and his wife rushed over overnight. By his features, they confirmed Du Qianji was indeed their lost child. They planned to take him back to the capital. But when Du Qianji heard this, he clung to me, crying with a look of reluctance. "I can't leave without my younger siblings. I won't go. I want to take them back to the capital with me." Master Du looked around our humble but cozy earthen house. After hearing about how we had depended on each other all these years, he sighed and said, "You're all good children. If you're willing, come to the capital with Qianer. The Du family will certainly treat you well." I initially wanted to decline, but Du Qianji held my hand and wouldn't let go. Zhang Heng and Wen Shichu also urged me, saying going to the capital would be good for looking after our big brother. So we sold our earthen house and vegetable shed and followed the Du family to the capital. The Du mansion was grand and spacious. It had exquisite carvings and paintings, but I always felt constrained there. So I took Zhang Heng and Wen Shichu and found a small house in the capital's outskirts to settle in. I only visited Du Qianji at the Du mansion occasionally. Du Qianji had returned to his family, but he hadn't forgotten his roots at all. He came running over to my place every day. He even brought the Du family's shop ledgers to learn from my experience. Du Qianji returned to the Du family, but he never forgot his roots. He kept coming over to my place every day, and even brought the Du family's shop ledgers to learn from my experience. My sister's business sense is far better than the family's accountants. She's much more capable. Soon, the imperial examinations arrived. With his solid knowledge and unique political insights, Su Mo came out on top, becoming the new top scholar. In the imperial court, the emperor saw his quick wit and upright character. He immediately appointed him as a compiler in the Hanlin Academy, granting him leave to return home and honor his ancestors. He was also rewarded with gold, silver, and fine silks. The day Su Mo returned home in glory, it caused a stir in the whole town. He rode a tall horse, with me and my other brothers following behind. The 5 of us returned to that dilapidated temple. We kowtowed 3 times before the Buddha, looking at the dust covering the hall. My eyes welled up with tears. The Buddha truly answered our prayers. Our eldest brother really became an official. Life became a bit more stable, but Zhang Heng always felt like he had all this strength with nowhere to use it. Then, urgent news came from the border. The Xiongnu had invaded. The court urgently called for soldiers. Zhang Heng started thinking about joining the army. He stared at the recruitment notice at the city gate, unable to sleep all night. Early the next morning, he came to bid me farewell. "Shimei, I want to join the army. You all saved my life. Now, with the country in peril, I should go defend our borders." When he told me his plan, my eyes teared up, but I still nodded. If third brother wants to go, then go. Eldest brother, second brother, fourth brother, and I will all wait for your return. Take care of yourself. Don't get hurt. Though I couldn't bear to see him go, I knew the fighting spirit in his bones. With tears in my eyes, I helped him pack. Su Mo and Du Qianji also gave their full support. Su Mo used his connections to secure Zhang Heng a position as a personal guard. Du Qianji secretly slipped him a large sum of silver. Su Mo used his connections to get Zhang Heng a position as a personal guard. Du Qianji secretly gave him a lot of silver. Wen Shichu even brought out some priceless golden wound medicine to give him. On the day Zhang Heng left, a few of us went to the city gate to see him off. I slipped him a pouch embroidered with little mushrooms. "I made this. It's for protection. Keep it with you." Zhang Heng, eyes red, took the pouch. He mounted his horse, and only said, "Wait for me to return. I'll protect you all for a lifetime." Life at the border was harsh, but Zhang Heng, driven by sheer grit, climbed up from personal guard step by step. He fought bravely, and was also strategic. He saved his commanding officer several times, earning great military merits. At first, letters from the border arrived monthly. Later, as the war intensified, the letters gradually stopped. One time, news even came that he had fallen in battle. I fainted on the spot. Du Qianji used all his connections to inquire at the border. He sent the best physicians to the frontier. Su Mo also petitioned the court to investigate thoroughly. Wen Shichu stayed by my bedside, brewing medicine and caring for me day and night. Soon after, news arrived. It turned out that during a battle, the enemy launched a surprise attack. Zhang Heng, covering his comrade's retreat, was hit by several arrows. He was unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. Later, he was rescued by nomads, which delayed the news. Fortunately, he had 4th brother's wound medicine. 3rd brother, blessed by fortune, pulled through. He was even promoted to deputy general for his merits, and granted a chance to return home to visit. The day I saw him, I was shocked. His body was covered in scars. He was a world apart from the 3rd brother before he left, but not wanting us to worry. He still said with a smile, still smiling as he said, "Those Xiongnu brats want my life. It's not that easy." We held him, all of us crying together. Suemo immediately petitioned the emperor to let Zhang Heng stay in the capital to recover, but after Zhang Heng's wounds healed, he insisted on returning to the frontier. As long as the nation's borders are unsettled for a single day, I will not return for a single day. Years passed. Through his military achievements, he became a young general who struck fear along the border. The enemy trembled at the mere mention of his name. They dared not invade again. One day, the capital's gates swung wide open. Commoners lined the streets to welcome him. With the frontier pacified, 3rd brother returned triumphant to the court. I went with my other brothers to wait at the city gate early. Seeing that figure clad in armor, majestic and awe-inspiring, I couldn't hold back any longer. I rushed over and threw myself into Zhang Heng's arms, crying, "3rd brother, you're finally back." Zhang Heng set down his spear. He carefully held her, his voice hoarse. "Jia, I'm home." It felt like the days had returned, to when we were all together in the beginning. When Shichu opened a small clinic in the capital, his medical skills were already exceptional, and he was dedicated to research. He pored over the medical texts his father left countless times. He often went deep into the mountains to gather herbs. Once, the prefect's wife fell gravely ill. Famous doctors were summoned to no avail. Someone recommended Wen Shichu. Carrying his medicine chest, he went to the prefect's residence. First, he carefully diagnosed her. Then he brewed 3 doses of a unique decoction. Miraculously, the lady's condition gradually improved. The prefect personally came to his door to thank him, calling him a national treasure of medicine. From then on, Wen Shichu's clinic was bustling with patients. By this time, Suemo had become a 3rd-rank imperial censor in the court. Incorruptible and upright, he impeached many corrupt officials. He was deeply loved by the common people. Zhang Heng was appointed as a general by the emperor, and sent to guard the frontier. Du Qianji gradually took over the family business in the Du household. He's clever, and he learned my down-to-earth approach to small business. He managed the Du family's cloth and grain shops meticulously, but he never forgot our humble beginnings. He even opened a charity porridge kitchen, to help the poor. He always tells people, "Everything I know, my sister taught me." Meanwhile, in the capital, I wasn't idle either. With the capital Du Qianji provided, I opened a shop called Jiwei Zhai. It specialized in fresh produce and cured meats from all over, because the goods were authentic, the price is fair, and we often aided the poor. Jiwei Zhai became a one-of-a-kind shop in the capital. Even the empress often sent people from the palace to shop there. Of course, we faced our share of troubles during this time. Suemo was too forthright in official circles, and offended corrupt court officials. He was falsely accused of colluding with the enemy and treason, and thrown into the imperial prison. For days, we were running around in a panic. Du Qianji used all the Du family's connections to pull strings. He spent hundreds of thousands of taels of silver to grease the wheels. When Shichu rushed to the palace overnight, under the pretext of treating the Empress Dowager's illness, and seized the chance to plead Sumo's case, he said Suemo had a strategic mind, and the nation's welfare at heart. There was no way he would collude with the enemy. I gathered Jiwei Zhai's loyal customers, and commoners who had received Sumo's kindness, to submit a joint petition, to prove Sumo's innocence. At the most critical moment, victory reports arrived from the frontier. Zhang Heng had completely pacified the Xiongnu, and returned triumphantly to the capital. He deliberately brought the enemy generals' letter of surrender and knelt outside the throne hall, vouching for Sumo's character with his own life. "Lord Su is my savior, and a pillar of the state. If he were a traitor, Lord Su is my savior, and a pillar of the state. If he is guilty of treason, I will share his fate." The emperor valued talent, and seeing so many plead for him, he ordered a thorough investigation. In the end, Suemo was cleared of all charges, and was even promoted. He was appointed as the prefect of Jiangnan. Before leaving the capital, Suemo took our hands and said, "Without you, I would have been thrown in prison long ago. To have you all as my family in this life is my greatest fortune." After Zhang Heng returned victorious, he was named the guardian general. The emperor offered him fertile land and a fine mansion, but he asked for only one thing. "Your Majesty, my sister Jiangji has protected and raised us since childhood. I beg you to grant her the freedom to run Jiwei Zhai, free from official harassment." The emperor laughed and agreed, and even personally inscribed a plaque for Jiwei Zhai. With this great honor, my little shop's business was booming. Another 5 years passed, and we 5 siblings each thrived in our own lives. Suemo achieved outstanding results in Jiangnan. Deeply loved by the people, Du Qianji became the richest man in the capital. Yet he still came to Jiwei every day, bringing me the freshest ingredients. Zhang Heng was stationed at the border, but he would return every year to bring me gems and specialties from the western regions. When Shuchu became the head of the imperial hospital, even the emperor called him a miracle doctor. But he always said, half of my medical skill was taught by my father, the other half was forged by my sister's kindness. Today was my 27th birthday, and the 20th anniversary of us meeting. My brothers started preparing early, and Sumo personally wrote a calligraphy scroll. My older brothers started preparing early. Sumo personally wrote a calligraphy scroll. It read, "May you be free from worries year after year." Du Qianji searched all over the capital and bought me the most exquisite jade hairpin. Zhang Heng gifted me a chest of treasures from the western regions. It was filled with agates and amber, and all sorts of exotic spices, all rare items in the central plains. And when Shuchu went as far as giving me the one and only beauty preservation pill in the world. That day, the mansion was decorated with lanterns and streamers. Dozens of banquet tables were set up. Even the emperor and empress sent congratulatory gifts. For a moment, I was the center of all attention. I wore a new silk dress. Looking at the four brothers before me, their eyes full of adoration, my eyes suddenly grew warm. I remembered that afternoon many years ago, when I was so hungry I gnawed on fish bones. I remembered the clear water with boiled vegetable leaves in the broken-down temple. I remembered the hardships on the road to the capital. I remembered those days and nights spent struggling to make a living. Back then, I thought having a full meal was the greatest happiness one could have. But now, she had four older brothers who could shelter her from the storm. She had a stable home and endless warmth. The next day, we held a banquet at the Du family's grand estate. 5 children who came out of that broken-down temple had now all become accomplished in their own fields. After several rounds of drinks, Du Qianji swayed his wine cup and said, "If she hadn't shared her chicken feet with me back then, I would have starved to death. If she hadn't rescued me from the reed marshes, I wouldn't have survived either." Third brother Zhang Heng, who rarely spoke, finally opened up. His voice was still deep. "Without Ji, I'd still be wandering around." When Shuchu, his eyes read, "Ji is my savior too. Ji is also my savior, and my family." Looking at my 4 brothers before me, my eyes welled up, from the boiled vegetable leaves in that broken-down temple, to this table full of delicacies now. From struggling to find our next meal to each of us finding our place in life, all the hardships we endured forged a bond that's etched into our bones. Sumo raised his wine cup, stood up, and said, "The 5 of us siblings being where we are today is all thanks to Ji, our pillar of strength. From now on, we will protect her and ensure her peace." Du Qianji stood up as well, thumped his chest, and declared, "Anyone who dares bully my little sister will have to go through me first. All the wealth of the Du family belongs to my sister." Zhang Heng also rose to his feet. His hand rested on his sword hilt. "My cavalry will always protect my sister. I will guard my sister well. I'll keep her safe from illness and harm." At that moment, I just wanted to cry, but they were tears of joy. Sumo sensed her emotions. He asked gently, "Ji, why are you crying?" I wiped my tears, shook my head with a smile. "I'm not crying, I'm just happy." Du Qianji quickly handed her a piece of pastry. "Try this. It's from the imperial kitchen. I paid a fortune to get it from the palace." Zhang Heng, meanwhile, placed a piece of deboned meat in her bowl. "Eat more, you're still so thin." When Shuchu also came over with concern, I nibbled on the pastry, looking at my 4 brothers. Suddenly, I felt that the day at the temple gate, when I shared my home with Du Qianji, saved Sumo, stopped Zhang Heng, and brought back Wen Shuchu, was the best thing I've ever done in my life. As night deepened, the feast came to an end. I leaned against the old locust tree in the courtyard. Night grew deeper. The banquet ended. I leaned against the old locust tree in the courtyard. My eldest and second brothers fanned themselves nearby. My 4th brother peeled fruit for me, and my 3rd brother performed for us a sword dance he learned in the army. The evening breeze blew by, carrying the scent of locust blossoms. I yawned, but a sweet smile lingered on my lips. Suddenly, I felt that being heartlessly abandoned by my parents, and those days of going hungry, had all been fate's groundwork. All the hardships I endured, the suffering I faced, were ultimately exchanged for the most precious family bond in this world. Later on, I became the envy of every girl in the capital. My eldest brother is the top scholar and prefect. My second brother is the richest man in the capital. My 3rd brother is the general who protects the nation. My 4th brother is the nation's revered physician. They spoiled me like a princess. I knew the days ahead would always be this good. My brothers would protect me, free from worries. Year after year, that New Year's Eve, the 5 of us returned to the site of the old, dilapidated temple. Now, a schoolhouse stood there. It was built with donations led by Sumo, specifically to take in homeless children. Snow fell silently. Du Qianji handed me a warming pot for my hands. Zhang Heng tightened my cloak. When Shuchu slipped me a warming pill, Sumo smiled and gave me a plum blossom. "Ji, for the new year, may you be free from worries." I looked at my 4 brothers beside me. Snowflakes landed in our hair, but my heart felt warm. I realized home was never a house, but that no matter how far you go, someone is thinking of you, protecting you. It's a bond that holds fast. Through wealth or poverty, the bitterness of this world, we endure together, and will surely taste all its sweetness together too.